Hey guys, this is Demian from the Songs of the Eons development team, and I wanted to show you all a little bit of what we've been working on recently, and that is water bodies and various types of rivers. And in most strategy games, like rivers and oceans and lakes, I think are pretty overly simplified, right? You either have like an ocean tile or a freshwater lake tile or a river tile, and they give you like a +1 food bonus or +1 money bonus or something like that. And that really does no justice to the profound influence that rivers have had on civilizations throughout history. When it comes to like the Yangtze River, the Yellow River, the Ganges, the Nile, the character of the river had a huge influence on the nature of the civilization itself. And so in Songs of the Eons, we're trying to represent that as best we can, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it in this video. So on the surface, you can see in just the elevation map mode that a river influences the terrain over geologic time by causing erosion. And that's based on the amount of water that's flowing through the area, and also the weatherability and erodibility of the rock type that exists along that particular river. And so certain types of rocks which weather more easily and erode more easily for these broader floodplains. Rocks like acid platonics and other types of hard silicates will produce, canyon-like geomorphology and stuff like that. And by the way, eventually we'll have a nice, pretty terrain map mode where you can see, rivers actually flowing through the landscape and stuff like that. But we have to get ecology done before we can make something pretty like that. But we do actually have some new map modes to show you more in depth the work we've done on rivers. This is the old water flow map mode we had before, but we now also have some other cool map modes like the watershed map mode and catchments. You can see here that we have color-coded each major river and its total extent. So you can see here this massive Danube-type river that's all purple. This technically all connects, right? And it goes all the way to the ocean. This particular spot here gets water from all of the other little tributaries you see up here in the headwaters. And it all eventually drains into that particular spot. You can see different types of rivers of different scale, right? So you see some smaller ones here. And of course the rivers follow the variation in elevation. So you can see right here we have these cute little guys here. And so you can deduce right here you must have some kind of Andean type of mountain range along the coast. And sure enough, if we check, ta-da, we have some mountains. And yeah, so you can see here all of the different dendritic systems. And what's really cool is that we converged on the types of geomorphology we have and hydrogeology we have in real life as well. So that didn't show up very well, but you can see here's a catchment map of Spain, and you can see that structurally it's quite very similar to what we've generated in Songs of the Eons. But that's not all. Let's see, we also have a source and drainage map mode. And when we click on a particular part of a river, like let's say here, let's zoom in better there, get the right tile. You can see we've selected this particular tributary here. We can see this tributary gets water from all of these other river headwaters here. And then this particular part of the river will then drain through this path, through this lake, and then all the way down to the ocean. And if you click on any particular part, it'll show you what parts of the catchment are contributing to that particular tributary, and then where it drains. So for instance, if we click on this freshwater lake, it's kind of like a Lake Chad or Lake Victoria, you can see that all of these other parts of the catchment contribute here, and then it drains down to the ocean. And so what this also means is that any particular part that you click on means that not only is it going to be getting water from these areas, but it's going to get whatever the sediment load of these catchments, or of these tributaries get as well. So let me give you an example. Let's say we click here, right? So we have a tributary here. It's getting its water from up here. It's draining down here. If we look at the rock map mode here, most of the path of the river was going through here. Most of what the river is picking up is going to be weathered and eroded down sandstone. All right, so right, you can see right here it's getting mostly sandstone, so it's going to be getting lots of kind of infertile, not very useful sand. And so anything along this river, anything along the coast of this river, anything on the floodplain is going to kind of have sandy alluvial soils with not much nutrients. And then this part of the river is going to be contributing its kind of crappy sediment load to the rest of the river down here. And so right here you can see you have almost like a Mesopotamian type area along the desert with probably a fairly wide floodplain. The nature of this alluvial soil on this part of the river is going to be a composite of all of the stuff that got eroded and carried downriver in its supply area. So everything along here, all the sediment load is going to drain through here, and the soils will take on the nature of whatever drained through this area. So what that means is that each one of these tributaries has its own unique characteristics. Some will be great, be loaded with organics, loaded with mineral nutrients, ripe for a densely populated civilization, and others less so, or may just have different characteristics. So let's, for instance, find some like okay, so you can see a hotspot's getting dragged across this part of the world. These mountains are the result of probably a major or a moderate hotspot. If we look at the drainage area, right? So this area in here is all going to be weathering down and carrying along basaltic type material from the volcanic bedrock. And so what it'll do is it'll actually form very, very favorable soils along the coast for farming, which have a lot of mineral nutrients. And you could even have 5, 10, 15 times the population along this little area than you would in this nearby river up here, which was mainly dominated by sandstone. And you have tons of different variation in between. So for instance, if we look at a rock map mode here, this is all limestone. This is also sort of low sea level area that was once reef, right? And so it created a biogenic sedimentary rock. And limestone tends to erode fairly easily, and so you have this broad floodplain where the river runs. And so you'll have, in this particular area, the soil will take on the nature of all of the sediment that was brought down from this area, and then it'll create this wide floodplain in this particular area. And different tributaries having different characteristics also applies to lakes as well. So for instance, we have a lake here, right? Freshwater lake. It's a freshwater lake because it is able to, it has a drainage area, right? So water can go in and then leave. But if we go over to another lake, like let's say this one right here, you can see water flows in, but it has no drainage path. So what that means is that water comes in, and invariably a lot of that water contains salts. And what happens is evaporation off of the lake will gradually increase the salinity of the lake higher and higher and higher. And if we go over here, you can see this is actually a freshwater lake because it has a drainage area into the ocean. And so you can actually, each lake will have different nutrient levels, different organic levels, different salinity levels, which will greatly increase the nature of the lake. So a lake like this could have a lot of agriculture around it because it's a freshwater lake. You can tap it for irrigation, and the water table is useful because it's freshwater. Whereas a lake like this, which is saltwater, can be used as fisheries and transportation and stuff like that, and you can farm along the headwaters, but around the coast of the lake itself, you can't do the same kind of activity. So, civilization in this particular area would be very different than a civilization here, right? You can see here's the top. They're both kind of up in the mountains. The difference is that one drains and one doesn't. Right, so I think that's just about everything. Right now, the next order of business is we are actually populating our various different tributaries with new variables. We need to figure out how much mineral nutrient, organics, silt, clay, and sand are all transported so that we can then figure out what all of the soils look like around these particular tributaries. And then from there, we can determine, what the water table is like, and also the types of ecosystems and plants prefer to grow in those areas, and in turn, what types of crops civilizations will grow. So that's what we've got so far. Thanks for tuning in. I will hopefully keep making some more videos just to show you guys what we're working on at any given moment. And yeah, go ahead and subscribe so that you can stay in the loop. Thanks. I'll see you all later.